Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. In the previous episodes we've looked at some of the great games that I played whilst growing up, but they can't all be great, so I thought this time let's take a look at some of the stinkers we encountered along the way. With the internet it's very easy to take a preview of a game these days, see a video on YouTube and you can kind of tell if it's fun or not. Back in the day we had to rely on adverts or magazine reviews to get a rough idea of what to expect. But there's loads of things that can make a game bad. Maybe it's got unresponsive controls, maybe it didn't live up to the hype, maybe it's a game in a series and the first game was far better than this one. Maybe the game itself is actually good, but maybe there's parts of it that are bad. But let's take a look at a few of these games, starting with one of the biggest gaming disappointments that I remember. You gotta give this one a bit of background, and this is Chase HQ, a Taito arcade game, chasing down enemies, smashing into them and pulling them over. An absolute classic, really great game. And this got a conversion to the humble Sinclair Spectrum, and although it's really primitive, it plays so well. It's such a great game, and it's regularly taken that this is one of the best games on the entire system. And after Chase HQ came out, we eventually got a sequel in the arcade, Chase HQ Special Criminal Investigation. This expanded on the first game, and this time you've got a gun as well, so you can take out enemies in front of you. And this was also going to get a conversion to the Sinclair Spectrum. The first game was so great, the hype for this one was absolutely real. This was what we got. I could tell within about 3 frames of animation that this game was horrendously bad. Thankfully it's not one that I spent money on. I think my brother bought it or brought it home as a copy or something like that, but what a disappointment. It's so slow, so jerky. And the background music, what on earth is going on? The controls are basically taken as a suggestion by the computer. No fun at all to play. And after that fantastic first Chase HQ game on the Spectrum, it only made this sequel even more of a disappointment. But this wasn't going to be the only disappointment along the way. Let's take a look at a few more. There's an old phrase that says comparison is the thief of joy, and this is Cybernoid on the Sinclair Spectrum, an absolute classic of the system. This is how it's done, perfect colours, perfect gameplay, and an amazing soundtrack, one of the best games on the system, again, really great. Still fun to this very day. But as we eventually got new systems, we got a Commodore Amiga, and Cybernoid for the Commodore Amiga came on one of these floppy disk copies one day. Couldn't wait to play it. Surely the graphics were going to be that much better and the music was going to be awesome. No. I don't know what happened with this game, but something seriously went wrong. How can it have no music at all, and how can it have fewer colours than the Spectrum version? This is a 16-bit system. It's got 8 times the amount of memory of the Sinclair Spectrum. Just goes to show that just because the system's more powerful doesn't mean you get a better game. But it happened again. Exelon's another classic Sinclair ZX Spectrum game, and it's by the same developers as Cybernoid, Hewson Consultants, so it was going to be great, and it was great. What a great playable game this was. And again, this is another game that came out on the Commodore Amiga. Again, it was going to be better, it was going to have better sound, better graphics, everything was going to be perfect. And we got another stinker. Really drab and dull looking, really slow and unresponsive, really bad music. Just another crap low effort game. Again, as basic as that Spectrum version is, it's the one to play. I still remember the very first time I played Mortal Kombat in the arcade. I had the home version on the Commodore Amiga, which was a great conversion, and it meant I could kind of do some of the moves in the arcade. It wasn't exactly the same, but I could figure a few out, I could do some of the fatalities, and I remember playing this at the local fun fair when it came to town. It was by far the loudest arcade they had there. All the sound was cranked to the max, so much so that it's slightly distorted, and everyone was gathering round and watching this arcade. I later had the Sega Mega Drive version of this game, and I love it to this very day, still plays really well. But we're here to talk about the Super Nintendo version. Now you can only really understand this if you've played the European version of this game. It's so bad, it's so full of glitches, it's so clunky to play. It might as well be a completely different game. Although this game didn't have the blood and stuff of the arcade, that wasn't really that big a deal, it was the clunkiness. of this game. I remember first seeing it and I thought, oh wow, it's got loads of frames of animation. It looks really smooth, just like the arcade on the character select. But one quick game of this and I knew it was a turd. There's so many little sound glitches and stuff in this game, and graphical glitches. Moves are really hard to perform. And there are a bunch of different versions of this game. I think within Europe, there are a bunch of bugs that I remember doing. Some of the fatalities you could do from an entire screen away. They wouldn't connect, but you'd still get the finishing move bonus. The endurance rounds where you fight one player after another, they were bugged as well. The second player jumped in off the screen after you defeated the first. If you hit them before they hit the ground, they lost all their health all in one go. Nice little handy bug that. But even the version I'm playing now, which apparently is one of the Euro releases, this is still buggy as hell. You can see this fight here between Sub-Zero and Raiden. One leg sweep, he dies. Why? He's got a full health bar. I don't know. It's the way it is. It's garbage. A game without any real context here, this game is 7 Gates of Shambhala and it's for the Amiga CD32. And my brother has to take responsibility for this one. I had the Amiga CD32 and I was looking for a new game and he told me to buy this one. It's just like Wonder Boy, he said, just like Wonder Boy. It wasn't. The disappointment was pretty much instant on this one. And I've never forgotten it. There weren't many great games on the CD32 system, but why did he have to pick this one? I guess because if he didn't pick that one, he'd have picked this one. This is Rise of the Robots, and it's kind of played out to talk about this game, but even with games these days like Grand Theft Auto 6, now the anticipation for that game at the time I speak is absolutely crazy, but it hasn't got a patch on Rise of the Robots. When this was coming out, the hype machine was into overdrive. I remember picking up Games Master magazine or Computer and Video Games magazine, and there was a 36-page preview for this game, and it was getting released on everything. It was getting released on the Amiga, SNES, Mega Drive, Game Boy, Master System, Game Gear, you name it, it was getting released on it. Even the TV show Bad Influence, which was kind of a gaming TV show, would regularly carry out interviews and stuff and development updates on this game. It really was going to be something truly next generation. And then the game got released. I remember the day my friend Phil came round my house with his Amiga CD32. I hadn't seen an Amiga CD32 at that point, but he came round my house and he had Rise of the Robots. Let's play this, let's play this. Oh my god, it was atrocious, it was so bad. The graphics was the game, that was it. It had no playability, it didn't even have any in-game music, and you could complete the game by holding the D-pad upright and holding the fire button to do flying kicks. That was the only move you needed to do to complete the entire game. And I don't think there's a game that has lost to the hype as much as this game. I don't think any game ever will. If you weren't there, you really can't imagine it, how much of a flop this game was. I'm just glad the money didn't come out of my wallet. "1991 and Street Fighter 2 was released. Another game where, unless you were of a certain age and seeing this game when it was new, maybe you can't fully appreciate how groundbreaking this game was. Amazing graphics, sound and playability, so much fun to play, single player, 2 player, absolutely fantastic, and it was quickly followed up by the Championship Edition. This let you play the boss characters and had a few little tweaks and extra moves and stuff, and I loved it so much I put this game at number 1 of my all-time top 30 arcade games. So why even talk about Street Fighter 2 on a video that's about crap games? Well, the answer to that is Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. I don't know what went wrong with this game. The sound system they used, the new Q-Sound sound system, didn't sound anywhere near as good as the old one. We had 4 new characters that didn't really add much to the game, weren't really needed. But the absolute failure of this game is in the single player mode. Now I like Street Fighter 2, I love to play a versus game, but I also like to play single player game. And the AI in this game is absolutely ridiculously stupid. It's so far beyond what needed to be done to correct the fairly simplistic AI of the first games. It just makes for a game that's no fun at all. Enemy characters get pretty much instant recovery, they can tech out of throws straight away. They've got ridiculous grab ranges on throws, they can instantly respond and counter your moves, and if you're fighting a character that has a grab or a hold or something like that, it's ridiculous. You can lose 75% of your life in one hit. There's one YouTuber who I'm just going to put his video up here and his name's below. This is one video clip that he's grabbed of one character. This is how stupid it can get. As I understand it, the Japanese version of this game is a little bit more fair, but the American version and the one we got in the UK as well, it all has this stupid AI. Just avoid this game or just play it in versus mode. Mortal Kombat 2 kind of had the same issue as well. This is the best Mortal Kombat game in the entire series as far as I'm concerned. It's never been bettered. As a two-player game, and the characters and the moves and stuff, it's just perfect. But it falls down just like Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo in the one-player mode. Again, the AI is really stupidly overtuned on this one as well. You can get thrown when you shouldn't be able to get thrown. And more annoyingly, there's moves that you can't seem to hit with, like Kung Lao's spin move. If you use this, you will be instantly countered by a fireball from whatever character you're fighting. Good luck trying to land this one. And Sub-Zero's Ice Freeze, you can't land this. The only time you can land it is when the enemy can't avoid getting hit by it. Scorpion's spear move is really hard to land as well, but there's other characters like Liu Kang, and you can use two moves pretty much, the flying kick and the bicycle kick. They land pretty much every time. You can pretty much get through the whole game with just those few moves really. So a legendary great two-player fighting game that's absolutely garbage as a single-player game. I've probably finished this game on single-player probably 10 times ever, and I've got no desire to go back and do it again. Next, we're going to move ourselves several decades into the future. 2016, and a great game was released on Steam called The Town of Light. Really cool psychological drama, this one, where you sort of explore the events of your past, where you were taken into an asylum as a child, and you revisit it and explore the locations you used to know, and yeah, really cool little story. Like a lot of gamers, I like to buy physical games. I do use digital games, but I do like a physical version of the game. Anyway, after I bought this game, I noticed it came out on the Xbox, and I bought it because I wanted the physical version. Really nice to have, and you know, I've got it digitally, I've got it physically. So the best of both worlds. Anyway, I also have a Nintendo Switch, another console which I absolutely love, and I saw this for sale on the store one day, and I thought, oh, this would be quite nice to own on a portable console. Now, I'm in no way expecting this to be anywhere near as good as this PC version, but I downloaded it, I bought it, and this is what I got. When this game first opened, I couldn't believe it. I was basically waiting for the textures to load in like you get on some of the older systems. I thought, you know, you start off with low resolution textures and they sharpen up. Here they didn't. The frame rate is absolutely appalling. I don't know how this can be so bad. I mean, this looks like an N64 game to me, it looks that bad. But the Nintendo Switch, although it's not as powerful as the PC and Xbox and so on, it was definitely capable of a better version than this. Thankfully, I think I only paid £10 for this one, but I still felt cheated. I'm a big fan of the Zombie Army games, or should I say was. These are a spin-off from the Sniper Elite games, and these are probably some of the most fun times I've ever had with multiplayer gaming, online multiplayer gaming. These games, especially the trilogy, come into their own. For me, it's basically the Left 4 Dead games, but better. Really gory, headshots everywhere, loads of cool guns. Starting out with loads of World War II weapons, you got the Lee Enfield, the Mosin Nagant, there's landmines, trip mines, dynamite. And my favourite, which is the Preacher, is basically a massive shotgun that can take loads of stuff down at once. It's really fun to use. And I love Trilogy so much, I've got it on pretty much everything. I've got it on PC, I've got it on Switch, I've got it on Xbox, and I've got it physically too. It's that much of a great game, and a game I've just spent so much time on. And it's one of those games where if you make it harder, the game's even more enjoyable. The feeling of being overwhelmed as a team, helping each other out. When one player gets knocked down, everyone runs over to distract the zombies and bring you back up. So much fun. So when I heard Zombie Army 4 was coming out, I couldn't wait. I pre-ordered this game, couldn't wait for it to come out. It was going to be even better than Trilogy. So the game came out, and what went wrong? Now, I know a lot of people probably love this game, and hey, if you enjoy it, that's great. For me, I didn't like the cartoony interface. I thought the music and sound was nowhere near as good as the first game. Hated all these annoying pop-ups. There's some skill level up system that I've got no interest in. But I was looking around for the guns that I had in the first game. Where was my Lee Enfield rifle? That quickly became clear. This was a microtransaction filled hellhole. All the guns and stuff were basically paid for. You had to individually buy them when the game came out. Or you were stuck with the one rifle you start the game with, at least you were back then. It's just an absolute masterclass on how to ruin a game through microtransactions. I loved this company, I loved Rebellion, loved the first 3 games, but I will not buy another game from this company now. And I know I'm only one person, but this is the first game that I bought where I felt I'd actually been conned. If a company doesn't respect you as a customer, then you shouldn't respect them by buying their games. I just checked and this game has over £260 worth of DLC for it. A lot of these weapons and graphics, they'd have all been available when the game launched. So this is content that was available when the game was released, that was cut out and sold back to you. These days I'm a bit more careful about buying new games and I always check for DLC. An extra soundtrack or a few cosmetic items, fine by me. This kind of thing, no way. If I buy the game, I want the game, not bits of the game. Okay, ramp mode off. Remember when the Sony PlayStation launched in the UK? It came with a demo disc, Demo 1, quite a famous demo disc this one. Had a bunch of tech demos on it. Who remembers the dinosaur? Really impressive at the time seeing this. But it had a few games on it like Wipeout, Toshinden, and one of them which was Destruction Derby. Now this was a timed demo. You only had I think a minute and a half in the bowl to wreck other cars and stuff, but we loved this. It was so cool seeing the cars get damaged and trying to avoid getting hit as well. So this was one of the earliest games we wanted to get, and I think we picked this up, or rather my friend Mike picked this up as soon as it was available. We went to the shop, brought it back, and we had a quick game of it, and we realised it was all about the racing. It wasn't about the bowl mode where you're basically having the destruction derby and smashing other cars up. And the racing mode was just a bit dull. I guess we just wanted more of the demo really. But playing that demo now, to be honest, the excitement seems a bit short-lived. Maybe that's why the demo was only a minute and a half. After that, what else was there? Playing the actual game again now, it's not actually as bad as I remember it, but yeah, this got taken back to the shop the very same day and swapped for another game. Another couple of really lousy arcade conversions for the Commodore Amiga. Up first is Renegade, and this is so bad on the Commodore Amiga. If you've seen it on the Spectrum, I featured it a bunch of times. And again, another game we thought would be great on the Commodore Amiga. We picked this up on the Hit Squad budget label. I think we probably played this twice ever. It's so bad. What is with all the cowbell music? It's got really complicated controls as well. A control system that the Spectrum version handled absolutely perfectly, but I can't figure this one out. Thankfully, I think it was only about £8, but it was £8 down the drain.
Oh, thank you, officer! Hey, let's party!
I really enjoyed eSWAT on my friend's Sega Mega Drive. On the Amiga, I didn't. The graphics look like they've been made by me. No in-game music, and it's so stiff, the controls for this one. But this was made by US Gold. Now US Gold have got an appalling reputation on the Amiga. And to be fair, some of the 8-bit systems didn't do too well with the arcade conversions. Thankfully, just another game that arrived on a copied disc one day. Just more low-effort garbage. A game for the Sega Saturn. Sega Rally, we absolutely loved. Really great game and lovely handling and one of the best races ever made. A kind of a sequel to this was released. Sega Touring Car, really looking forward to this one, but we got this home and it was kind of like driving on ice. It just didn't handle like a car at all. The way the car handled around the track, it was really quite unpleasant to play. I think this one got sold off as well. So we've looked at a few games along this journey, and to be fair, some of them are good games. They've just got bad issues in parts of them. Some of them could be improved and be made really great games all round, especially the fighting games. I don't know what happened with those, but there are other games that are absolute stinkers. But to finish off this time, I want to take a look at two bad games that I've never played, games that I knew were bad but never got round to playing myself. One of the most impressive arcades I ever saw, one of the real arcade moments for me, was seeing Final Fight at our local swimming baths complex. We basically go down there just to play this. Really large sprites, great sound, and yeah, really fun to play. 2 players at the same time, which a lot of the home versions didn't have for some reason. I think the Super Nintendo was single player only, which kind of took away from that, but anyway, I'm getting off point. Back in the day, in the Sinclair Spectrum magazine, Crash magazine, there was a review of this for the Sinclair Spectrum. Even then, even in my young mind, I knew the idea of porting this game to the humble Spectrum was just laughable. There would be no way it would do this. But it was in this magazine, in glorious monochrome, with a 90% rating. So let's just take another quick look at the arcade, the graphics and the sound, and let's see how this ported to the Sinclair Spectrum. I think I'd kind of struggle to even call this a game. It's so slow and unresponsive. The graphics are just a mess on the screen. You can barely work out what's going on. This was a US Gold conversion to the Sinclair Spectrum, so remember what I said about US Gold earlier on? Really garbage arcade conversions. And this one's no exception. I think there's one sound in the game when you do a pile driver or hit someone. Imagine if you paid £12 for this back in the day. This is what happens when you don't play to the strengths of a machine. This machine could easily do a scrolling beat 'em up. There's a game called Mighty Final Fight, which is basically a version of the NES game, and it plays perfectly with these smaller sprites. This thing trying to shift these big sprites around the screen, the Spectrum hasn't got the horsepower to do it. And I'd say it's one of the worst games on the system, and that goes for games made by Teartex as well. For the final game of today, and a bad game that I haven't played but I am going to play, I'm going to turn to my friend Big Mike, and he's always told me of this game for the Commodore Amiga called Safari Guns. Now, I'd never played this, I'd never seen a video of it. The story I remember hearing of this game is I think one of his friends had it and bought it, and he went round his house and he put it on, and Mike was, I think there were a couple of other people there, they were laughing so much at this guy's game, the Safari Guns, that the guy got really pissed and actually asked him to leave the house. So it must have been pretty bad, so I thought today, let's give it a play. So it starts off with this intro theme, and all I can hear in my head is, I gotta have more cowbell. Definitely not one of the best music tracks on the Commodore Amiga, but then I got to the game. Now, I think it's kind of like an Operation Wolf clone, but you've got to switch between the gun and the camera. You've got to use the camera to take pictures of wild animals. You've got to take a picture of each one, and there's different points awards, and you've got to take out the poachers and other things, but you're kind of unsure as to what's what. You know, are these people helping animals in some of the, you know, on-screen stuff, or are they all poachers? So sometimes I was shooting stuff and I was losing points. No real in-game music, and yeah, I'd be pretty pissed off if I bought this back in the day. But surely you would look at the back of the box and think, why do I want to buy this game anyway? You could have bought loads of games. You could have bought Turrican, Ninja Warriors, Rainbow Islands. Why choose this one? But there's that old phrase, one man's trash is another man's treasure. A game that you may absolutely hate might be someone's most favourite game of all time. I've got plenty of games that I really enjoy that are widely seen as bad games. I really like Hard Driving on the Sega Mega Drive. One of my most favourite games on the system, and it seems to be universally loathed. I love Dragon's Lair on the Game Boy. Another game that people just can't stand. I really enjoy it. But you know what? At least these bad games can be played. If you look at games today like The Crew, there's another game called Ace of Spades on the PC. These are kind of live service games, so if you wanted to play them, you can. The servers have gone. There's no way to play these games anymore, so maybe we didn't realise how good we had it. But I think that's going to do us for this time. Let me know some gaming mishaps you encountered along your gaming path. Maybe you've got some bad games that are considered bad but you really enjoy. But take it easy, and I'll see you guys next time.